Sisters, the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus again, in reply, spoke to the chief priests and the elders of the people in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be likened to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. He dispatched his servants to summon the invited guests to the feast, but they refused to come. A second time he sent other servants, saying, 'Tell those invited, behold, I have prepared my banquet. My calves and fattened cattle are killed, and everything is ready. Come to the feast.' Some ignored the invitation and went away, one to his farm, another to his business. The rest laid hold of his servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged and sent his troops, destroyed those murderers, and burnt their city. Then he said to his servants, 'The feast is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy to come. Go out, therefore, into the main roads and invite to the feast whomever you find.' The servants went out into the streets and gathered all they found, bad and good alike, and the hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to meet the guests, he saw a man there not dressed in a wedding garment. He said to him, 'My friend, how is it that you came in here without a wedding garment?' But he was reduced to silence. Then the king said to his attendants, 'Bind his hands and feet and cast him into the darkness outside, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth. Many are invited, but few are chosen.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Good afternoon. Wow. Do I feel sorry for that king? Having been involved in all four of my children's weddings, one in 2010, one in 2011, and two in 2013, this gospel brought back some very vivid memories and some nightmares. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but any wedding is a very challenging experience. In our parable today, we hear the invited guests refusing to come to the wedding. That was interesting to me. I needed to know, why did they refuse? Were they concerned with who was invited or who was not? Were they concerned about where the wedding was being held, and did that affect their decision not to come? But what was most important is the message that the people who refuse to attend are sending their king. The king gets no response and then sends out a second reminder to the invited guests. And we hear some of the familiar excuses, like, "I have too much work," or "My business is too busy right now." This, in essence, is telling the king that they feel they are more important than him or his son. The king responds to this slight in a very shocking way. He makes a statement that those who were invited are not worthy to attend, and he sends out his servants and slaves to invite whomever they find. His servants and slaves gathered all they found, the faithful and sinners alike, even you and me. In today's society, this might make a person feel uncomfortable when you are invited to an event which is not composed of your peer group. But imagine how uncomfortable for the people of a caste system or a status-conscious society would be feeling like they didn't belong. Once the hall was filled, the king went to meet all his guests, and he sees a man not dressed in a wedding garment. The king said to him, "My friend, how is it that you came in here without a wedding garment?" The guest was reduced to silence. Then the king directed his attendants to throw the man out, stating, "Bind his hands and feet and cast him into the darkness outside, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth." I'm not sure if you understood what was meant by that, but I surely did not understand the end of that parable. I did some research and found two interesting facts I think that are important to share. First, in the time period of Jesus, the wedding garment would have been provided by the king. From what I understand, it was an outer garment that one would put over themselves and their clothing. From the information we are provided in the parable, we do not know why the man refused to put on the provided garment. However, in refusing, he is insulting the king. Now I understand why the king had him thrown out. Secondly, I found a commentary from St. Gregory that was very helpful to begin to look at this parable in a different light. He writes, in referring to this wedding garment, that cloth is woven on a loom between two arms, an upper arm and a lower arm. If anyone has seen a loom operate, they know this is true. In like fashion, the spiritual garment in our heart is woven. The upper arm of this spiritual loom is the love of God, and the lower arm is the love of our neighbor. It is only when these two arms operate in balance that one has a seamless wedding garment. I know for me, and maybe you, it is that lower arm that I have trouble with. How has my love of God and Jesus changed me or helped me to love my neighbor more or in a better way? Remember, God is throwing the feast, and all are invited, the faithful and sinner alike. So we need to ask ourselves, why are we here today? Just for ourselves and not thinking about anyone else? Or are we holding disdain for someone in our heart? This could be a family member, in-law, co-worker, friend, or someone you just know by sight. We need to answer the question, am I here just to see my friends, or because I have to be here? Or am I here because it is the right thing to do, or for any other reason than simply the love of God and Jesus? It is then that I have to adjust that bottom arm of the loom, which deals with the love of our neighbor. It's funny, as I was writing all this down, the greatest commandment Jesus told us kept coming into my mind: to love God with your whole heart, soul, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself, and that all the other commandments and precepts flow from this one. Jesus also told us that he would always be with us, and my brothers and sisters, he is. He's here now, in this place, in the word we just heard, and in the Eucharist we are about to share. Jesus is here to help us with both arms of the loom. Jesus tells us to ask, and he will help us. He explains that his yoke is easy and the burden is light. Jesus wants all of us to be part of the wedding feast that his Father has prepared for each of us to attend. I also know that Jesus does not want us to be downcast or gloomy, not enjoying the feast or life, but to live it as he has shown us. You might not remember, but Jesus fasted for 40 days, frequently went off to pray, but he was also the life of the party. It is written that Jesus was accused of being a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of sinners like me and tax collectors. I think the skill to learn is not to remain in neutral and be stagnant, only receiving, grabbing, taking, or on the other hand, only doing or giving and never enjoying life, We need to be in balance. So, my brothers and sisters, I believe the message today is that Jesus is here to help us prepare and to fix and mend our wedding garment. All we have to do is ask him and be open to his love in our lives. Then, as we take Jesus in at the Eucharist, receive his life as he showed us, and then go out and give that very life to the world around you. Remember, the world will know we are Christians because they can see Jesus in our lives through our actions. Amen.